All right, welcome back. This is part 2 of the video that I was doing yesterday on just talking about some of the things that have changed in my life over the last 9 years, why I quit alcohol and what my life is like 9 years in. And towards the end of the video yesterday, I was saying that, you know, if you want to make good strides into your life, if you want to really make your life count for yourself, if you want to do the things that you want to do in your life, if you want to do the things that you don't even know you want to do yet, right? If you just want to live your life to the fullest, then you've got to take charge. You've got to start taking from life, taking from the universe, creating things, right? And moving forwards from that perspective. Once you stop drinking alcohol, forget the alcohol. The alcohol is now in your past, right? It's got nothing to do with anything that moves forwards. If you continue to insist on calling yourself an alcoholic for the rest of your life, saying that you're living a sober life, saying that, you know, that there's all these things that are wrong with you, it's excuses that will stop you from moving forwards. You have to leave the alcohol behind. Alcohol's got nothing to do with where you are going to go, right? So today I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why I stopped, right? And then at the end of this video, I'm going to give you what I consider to be the recipe of my success. I was supposed to give it to you yesterday, but I changed my mind halfway through. The first reason I stopped drinking alcohol was because of my son. And there, leading up to me stopping drinking alcohol, I had many micro moments, shit that was going on, micro consequences for my drinking. And you know, the consequences start from day one, right? The consequences to you, to your body, to your life, to your mind, to your thinking, to everything, right? This is all, every time you have a drink, there's a compounding effect. And it's not just a compounding effect on the alcohol, or even forget about that, you know, the physical damage that's caused by the alcohol, forget about that. It's a compounding effect on your life. You know, you've only got so much time, so you spend time doing this and you can't do something else. You've only got so much money, you spend time doing this and you can't do something else. And because you can't do that other thing, that has a compounding effect on the other, the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. It's called second and third order consequences. So you've got to look at your life from that perspective. Now, when you've got all these, so I'm saying I stopped drinking alcohol the 2nd of January 2013. Right, so next year is my 10th year. And all the way up through that, those 30 years since the day that I started drinking alcohol, all these micro moments and micro consequences were happening, okay? And they're brewing, you know, good analogy for this topic. They're brewing over years. They're compounding each other. You know, one thing has an effect on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, right? And then I come to a moment where it becomes a constant battle in my mind with myself. I've been having this constant battle with moderation over the years. Moderation is one of the things that keeps you going, keeps you moving forwards, but moving forwards in a negative way, right? Because it reinforces your belief that there is something wrong with you as a person and your level of drinking, instead of something wrong with drinking itself, with putting this stuff inside your body in the first place. But you say to yourself, no, there's something wrong with just my levels of consumption. It's not the fact that I'm drinking, it's the fact that I'm drinking too much or I'm drinking too often. And the alcohol industry and the quit alcohol industry, these all meld together. I'm not saying that they join forces deliberately, but there's a certain thing that they do, which, you know, they say to people, look, don't drink more than a certain number of units. Who counts alcohol in units? They say don't drink more than a few drinks, but they know for a fact that once you're out and you're drinking and you're engaging in people, or you're engaging in that process of drinking, that it's very difficult to stop then. You know, have you ever stopped? How many times have you stopped drinking when you've got more drink there and said, oh, I'm not drinking any more of that, I'm going to have a cup of tea instead? Especially in a bar. If I was in a bar and I was drinking and all of a sudden I started ordering a cup of tea, they'd be going, what? Or is it you around, like, and that's why you're doing it? So think about it from that perspective. That moderation, it just keeps you on that loop, and keeps you from making real progress, which is another conflict between yourself and life, because you want to make progress. Everyone wants to make progress in life. Everyone wants to improve themselves, to grow themselves, to move from that internal inferiority, to an internal superiority for themselves, right? To grow and to achieve things in their lives. Everyone wants that. But when you're in this life where you're not reaching your potential, you know, your potential can shrink. And this is the problem, because potential is a two-way street. It's not just one way. There is a potential for achieving things, achieving success, achieving the things that you want in life, but there's also a potential for going the opposite direction and for shitting your life up, right? This is a problem, right? So anyway, this was the beach here. I'll show you the beach. This was the beach here, where just a little bit up that way. Where we used to live. Oh no, actually no, it's here. Sorry, that way. That way. I went out. My son came over for the Christmas. So that was the story. Was we moved here a year before, and my son came over, and he'd come over 2 or 3 times that year. And that Christmas we went out on a pub crawl, binge drinking session, whatever way you want to call it. We had quite a bit of alcohol, and then we ended up on this beach up the road here, and we were wrestling on the beach, and he had these skinny jeans on, he had an iPod in his pocket, and the iPod fell out of his pocket and into the beach, and he didn't know about it until the next morning. So he looked for it, and then he said, I've lost my iPod. So the two of us came down to the beach looking for it, couldn't find it. I said to him, I'm off back up, and I sat on the balcony, and I had a clear view of the beach. I'm watching him in the distance, pacing backwards and forwards with his head down into the sand. I was there with a cup of coffee, trying to nurse this hangover with a blanket over myself, and just feeling ashamed and feeling guilt and feeling just horrible, nasty emotions. That is the point of nasty emotions, is to move you in the opposite direction, move you away from this. So this is what was happening in me. And then I made the decision. So that was the spark, right? So everything that's happened before was just piling on this flammable material onto that pyre of my life, of what it was, onto that behavior, onto that person who I thought I was. And it took that one spark, small thing, losing an iPod on the beach, for me to cop onto myself and to think, yeah, this is not happening anymore. You know, finding your reason, finding that spark, or finding the reasons. There can be more than one reason to do this. The more reasons you have, the better it's going to be. This is one of the elements of the quick start guide that I really emphasize more than anything else. You know, it's trying to get you as prepared as you can be to step across that line, or to move into month 2, or to move into week 2 of this journey. Whatever it is, you need to have the motivations to do it. You need to have enough motivation to pull you forwards, or to push you forwards, right? Whichever way you want to be. You can get the quick start guide, by the way, for free by clicking on the link down below. But it's that finding why, that motivation. I call that the motivation equation in V2. We spend a lot of time talking about this in Habits V2 on the platform. It's, if you can have more reasons, the more reasons you can have for your journey, for yourself, for your progression, moving forwards, that journey onwards and upwards, the more reasons and motivations you can have for that, the better, right? And if you connect that, or you combine that with more motivations to move you in away from alcohol, so more reasons why you're saying, I am never putting that stuff inside my body again. The more motivations you can have in that, with that combined with the more motivations to move you forwards, the better, right? So like I said, we talk about that a lot. You know, it's one of my favorite things, because, you know, going through this, it can be easy to get to month 1, month 2, month 3, and forget why you're doing it. You know, most people start off with this with the motivation of pain, and that pain disappears, your motivation is going to disappear as well. So you have to have more motivations, and that's what I tend to put a lot of emphasis on, is trying to give you those motivations, trying to highlight them for yourself, or to try and get you to think about them in a different way, so that you're thinking about them yourself. So the second reason is fear, right? Fear of my health, fear of wealth, fear of facing reality, fear of facing into that potential or the possibilities in your life, right? I believe sincerely in living until you die. And before I was dying to live, literally, and I wasn't doing it very well. I wasn't living very well. I was living in a one step forwards, two steps back, then another step forwards and two steps back, and never making any significant progress. And all the time you've got this, when you're doing this kind of thing to yourself, you're doing it. You know that you shouldn't be putting this shit into your body. Your hangover, the withdrawal the next day, tells you every time, don't do this. When you wake up and you realize that you've said something shitty to somebody else again, or you've done something that you're embarrassed about, that tells you, right, that you shouldn't be doing this to yourself. But we come up with all these reasons and excuses, and nobody wants to feel stupid. So we have these things that we tell ourselves that sort of massage your ego a little bit. But that's the worst thing that you can do, because it keeps you continuing on with the same bullshit, with the same lifestyle. And like I said, all of this stuff is inside of you already, and you believe that this is not going to do you any harm, or even if it's doing you harm, you sort of twist it around so that the logic is in your favor in a different way. And so while you're excusing yourself forwards, while you're excusing yourself in your conscious mind, your subconscious mind is in conflict. So you've got this conflict all the time that is happening, that is preventing you from moving forwards. It's the subconscious part of you that keeps your self-efficacy, right? The quality of how you think about yourself. Your self-confidence, your self-belief, all of those things are under the surface. They're not things that you consciously think about, because if that's what it was about, everyone would be going around with their head up high, because we can bullshit ourselves consciously. It's easy to do, but it's not. It's the subconscious stuff. So all of this, every bit of the hangover and every bit of all the negative stuff that is happening to you, your subconscious knows that this is bad and you shouldn't be doing this to yourself, and it knows that you're acting from a place of not wisdom, right? So living is not about instant gratification, and it's that instant gratification mentality that keeps us going for so long. And it's a slow death. It's a slow death, because it not only kills you physically, right, the physical alcohol, but it kills your life. It just puts a whole dampening effect on every part of your life. It's not onwards and upwards, it's backwards and downwards. Do you know what I mean? And it's a slow, deathly life that you're living. One of the biggest things that I noticed not so long after I stopped drinking was that the quality of my life had expanded. The quality of my life had expanded. I was always thinking about quantity. I was thinking, I want to live longer years, but what's the point in living longer years if you're living shit years? If you're living a shit life, it doesn't make any sense. So live the quality. Do what you can now to think about your future. And one of the things that you can do now is to stop drinking alcohol. So long-term happiness, that long-term commitment to yourself. No, it's more of a long-term, that, what do they call it now? I've lost the word now. That, not contentment. Long-term contentment to yourself is about dedicating to yourself, dedicating yourself to yourself, dedicating your life to trying to improve yourself all the time. And there's certain things that you can do which will gradually, slowly improve yourself. And it's not thinking about, it's getting outside of that instant gratification mindset. So, but 9 years in, let's look at 9 years in. It's not about bucket lists. It's not about places visited or things bought, you know. All of those things are nice and all of those things are part of our modern life, but it's not about that. You think it's about that. You know, when you're in the middle of this, it's easy to sort of say to yourself, I want to do this and I want to do that, but it's not about what you are or who you are or who you're with or where you are that matters, right? It's what you tell yourself in your head about these things. It's what you tell yourself. It's the stories that you tell yourself about the life that you're living, about the people that you want to be with, about the places that you want to go to. It's what is happening inside yourself. It's about internal peace. It's about life meaning, you know, finding an overall life meaning. We're talking about the meaning earlier on, about those micro reasons why you're doing this, you know, trying to find as many reasons for motivational purposes to drag you on. Well, if you can find yourself a life meaning, we're talking about going back to Viktor Frankl, if a man can find a how, he can put up with any why. So if you can find a reason why you're doing this, if you can, oh no, sorry, it's the wrong way around. If a man can find a why, he can put up with any how. So you can put up with any shit that's going on in your life if you have a reason for doing it. You know, he's talking about it from the perspective of being in a concentration camp, one of the worst places that you could possibly imagine a conscious human being to be in, and surviving it. And not only surviving it with physically intact and being alive, but surviving it from the perspective of having that be a positive outcome, having that being a positive influence in your life. Something so horrible and diabolical and evil, to then come out the other side and to have that being a positive influence in your life. So, you know, it means that if they can do that, that you can do this with the alcohol, that no matter what went on before, you can take that and have that be a positive influence because you were drinking alcohol, because you went through all this shit, because you lived this life. Now you can live this life. Now you can move forwards and live the positive life, right? So being in total control of yourself, this is where your state of mind is not budged by other people, right? It's not, what's a good word for this now? It's not interfered with, right? So no matter what somebody else outside does to you or says to you or is, or whatever they're doing in their lives, whatever the circumstances of their lives, that is not influencing your decisions. Your decisions are based on your control over what you want to get out of your life, right? So know what, this is total strength. It's where you're building up, and you're building up every day. You're putting an extra bit of mortar into those bricks to make yourself stronger. You're adding another brick day by day by day, strengthening up the wall, right? And I'm not talking about a wall that is building, that is hiding the world from you. This is a wall that you're building which is strengthening your world. It's an internal wall, right? It's an internal structure that is making you tougher, harder. So look, what's the final message for today? My recipe for success is all about the plod, right? It's all about this they used to call the cops in England the plod because they walked so slowly, right? In London, I think, the plod is coming. and that's what my life is. It is that slow plod, one foot in front of the other's foot. Choose a goal, right? Focus on that goal. Move yourself towards it very slowly, gradually, deliberate steps, little by little. You're moving towards something that you want. It doesn't mean to say that you necessarily you can't change your goal. You can either change it. Most times when you do the plod, it's you'll choose a goal, then you'll go, oh yeah, that's not, and you'll veer a little bit and you'll move forwards again, and you'll veer a little bit and move forwards again. But it's all about every so often stopping, revisiting the goal in your head, analysing things, re-evaluating things, and then adjusting course again. It's all about these kind of moving forward. So you're moving forwards in these deliberate steps, bit by bit by bit by bit. So that's the recipe. It's, you know, it's not sexy, it's not a magic bullet, but it works. You know, this is how life goes. You know, like, it goes by second by second by second, and you have the opportunity, you have the possibilities, you have the choice and the decisions to make in those, or what you're going to spend those seconds on. Those seconds add up to minutes, the minutes add up to hours, the hours add up to days, so on and so forth. And it's how you spend those moments in your life, because this is all you've got. Forget the clock. The moment that you're in now, listening to this video, is the moment, or the next moment, whatever you're doing, it's your choice. The next video that you can watch is how to make stopping drinking alcohol much easier. That's the next one to watch. And if you want to watch one here, it's my 1 year video, my 1 year alcohol-free video. It's an interesting thing for me to look at that. I think is it the same length probably as this video? Oh my God, 22 minutes this video is now. It's probably the same length as this video, but it's an interesting from the perspective of what it, you know, that was my head after a year of stopping drinking alcohol. So I'm going to stop here now before I lose everyone. Take good care of yourself, onwards and upwards. See you in the next video. Bye now.